Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we will be discussing why you should stop accusing people of being on steroids, okay? Now, what prompted this video is that I've been starting in social media, trying to grow a following, and everyone and their mother accuses me of being on steroids. Now, people who know can obviously tell that I'm not on steroids, but today we'll be going in detail as to why you should stop accusing people of being on steroids. Now, number one, a lot of people aren't confident. What people think is when people see lean plus muscle, they assume they're on steroids, okay? And that's not necessarily the case. Now, there gets a point where you're so lean and have so much muscle that you probably are on steroids, but a lot of the people that y'all accuse of being on steroids, um, who are lean and muscular, aren't on steroids. Take me, for example. I've been bodybuilding for 8 years. I started at 140 pounds at 9.9% body fat, and I worked my way up to 180 pounds, about 11% body fat. So I put on about 40 pounds of muscle in 8 years. And people have been accusing me of being on steroids since 2019 because I'm so muscular and so lean. So when you're lean and you have muscle, people will assume or accuse you or think you're potentially on steroids. That's just how it is. I talked to a guy at the gym the other day. He's about 210 pounds on steroids, competing in bodybuilding. He asked me if I was on steroids or not. I said no. He was like, all right. So, like I said, you get to a point to where if you've been doing this long enough and your genetics are good enough, and you have lean and muscle, people will accuse you or assume that you're on steroids. Okay. Now, like I said, there are certain people who are very clearly on steroids, but you just have to have the eye to be able to tell who's natural and who's not. Now, I will say one more thing that due to like this new generation of children not wanting to spend lots of time working for gains, there are a lot of people now are on steroids, and they don't necessarily look like they're on steroids. So because of that, people see my physique. I look better than a lot of people on gear. I'm a lot stronger than a lot of people on gear, and so because of that, people assume I'm on steroids, and other people like me are on steroids because I'm better than people on steroids. And while that makes a lot of sense, ultimately what it just comes down to is I've been doing this for 8 years, and I essentially try to perfect every aspect of training. And when you have everything on point, when your nutrition's on point, when your training's on point, when your sleep's on point, then yeah, you're gonna have good gains. And when you're competing against someone who's on steroids and everything's not on point, I've been doing this for 8 years, so obviously I'm gonna be better. All right. But ultimately, what I'm saying is there are people on steroids who don't look like they're on steroids, and those are making it worse for us naturals who put in the work. Okay. Now, number two, this is extremely important. Genetics. Okay. Genetics play a massive role. Okay. So I have very good bodybuilding genetics. They're not amazing, but they're very, very good. I mean, you can argue they're amazing. All right. Now, most people have average genetics. Okay. And so if you have average genetics, that means you're not going to have very good genetics. And so if you have average genetics, your potential, how good you can look, how much muscle you can gain in a certain amount of time, is going to be different than someone who has very good genetics. So, for example, I put on 25 pounds of muscle in 16 months, from 9% body fat to 9% body fat. Went from 140 at 9.9% body fat to 165 at about 9% body fat. So 25 pounds of muscle in 16 months. Most people aren't able to do that. Okay. Like, my physique totally transformed in 16 months. All right. That's because I have very good genetics. Again, most people have average genetics. So people, I bench 315 around 452 mile. Most people, no matter how hard they train, won't run a mile under 5 minutes, let alone run a mile under 5 minutes and be able to bench 315 pounds. They just don't have genetics for it. A lot of people don't have the genetics to bench 315, despite social media, showing lots of people being able to do it. Being able to bench 315 is very hard. I know guys on steroids who can't bench 315. It's that hard, especially bench 315 while remaining lean. Okay, so genetics play a huge role. Most people who accuse you of being on steroids just haven't been on a sports team with athletic freaks. So for me, for example, I'm very athletic, but I've been on sports teams with people who went on to be in the NFL. A lot of my high school friends and teammates, or at least 7 or 8 guys on the football team went D1, and one guy is in the NFL now. So those guys are substantially more athletic than me, and they're a substantially stronger, better physiques than me. So genetics play a huge role. Most people don't understand how big of a role genetics play, and that's because they didn't grow up around people who are just good athletes, good genetically gifted for certain things. All right. And lastly, just because you can't do something doesn't mean it's impossible. So, for example, people accuse me of being on steroids because they don't understand how I can recover from all of my cardio and all of my training. So, I lift 6 days a week, I run, cycle 6 days a week, I exercise my peak in the about 36 hours a week. And people think that's impossible because how do you recover? But what they don't understand is A, I have great genetics and I have a great ability to recover. And B, I've been doing this. I've been bodybuilding and cycling and running concurrently for 8 years. I've been running for 16 years. I've been cycling for 12 years, and I've been bodybuilding for 8 years. I've been doing all three sports concurrently for 8 years. And so not only has my body adapted to it because I built up slowly over time, but I have good genetics. I can recover. All right, that's ultimately it. So just because you can't do something, which is very possible, because most people have average genetics. If you're watching this video, you most likely have average genetics. Okay, that doesn't mean it's impossible to accomplish certain things naturally. Like I said, most of you watching this will not be able to finish 3:15 or run a 4:52 mile, let alone be able to do both of those concurrently. I can do those because I work pretty hard and I have very good genetics. Okay, but just because you have bad genetics at one thing, I'm sure you have great genetics at something else. Okay, right? Like I'm not a good soccer player, I'm not a good basketball player, I'm not a good football player, but I can bodybuild and I can do endurance sports. All right, that's just my God-given gift. Okay, so just because you can't do something doesn't mean it's impossible naturally for other people who are gifted genetically. Okay, um, a lot of people just have certain people just have a higher natural potential and have a higher ceiling. That's just what it is. Okay. But that's all I've got for you guys today. If y'all are interested in offer coaching, how to bodybuild, how to become a hybrid, how to get jacked, how to get shredded, how to bodybuild and run concurrently, links in the bio. If you like this video, subscribe and leave a like, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.